Hello and welcome to another one of these lives. Today I'm doing one of the monthly series of lives I've been doing for, I guess, 2 years now, talking to Ukrainian teachers of English about how Russia's war on Ukraine is affecting them, affecting their lives, affecting their teaching, affecting their students. I guess for people who have the luxury of being outside of Ukraine, it's easy to forget that the war is still going on, that Russia is killing Ukrainians day in, day out, and that Russia is also throwing huge numbers of its own people and, hired people from Cuba and Syria and Mali and God knows where else into the meat grinder in order to take a few kilometers of Ukrainian land here, a few kilometers of Ukrainian land there. Today, I'm going to be talking to a teacher called Julia, who I can see has just requested to join. So let me let her access the live and we'll take it from there. The waiting. I hope everyone watching, wherever you are, you're all okay. Hey!
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, and I do hope that my internet connection won't let me down. I'm incredibly honored. I have like this, like jitters.
You'll be fine. You were saying this is the first time you've ever done a live, yeah?
Exactly. I'm not a huge fan of, like live show, like live talk, live stories. I don't know, just like I feel it's like not mine, but I'm trying to overcome it, and I feel it's gonna be okay. But am I lagging? Like maybe I have to switch from Wi-Fi to mobile.
No, you're good. I'll let you know if it goes weird at all, so don't worry. How has it been with electricity where you are, Julia?
It's the roller coaster. You never know, because the schedule that you have, it never, like fits. You think that the light will be like 3 more hours, but it's like switches off. But I've got accustomed. So I'm home right now, because usually, like when I'm at work, I have like the map of Britain. Yeah, so I bought EcoFlow. So when I'm at work, I'm not afraid. So, and before live, I was thinking like maybe I should run home, like run to work, just in case there will be Wi-Fi, there will be electricity, and then like, okay, it's gonna be fine. I will be home.
What is EcoFlow?
It's like basically the battery that can hold the laptop Wi-Fi, your power bank for 3 to 5 hours if it's fully charged.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a huge power bank, basically, yeah?
I said EcoFlow because I guess it's the company, like the brand EcoFlow.
Ukrainians who are watching will understand automatically what this is.
Question number one among teachers, like, how do you survive? Like, how do you handle your lessons? And like, there are different, like appliances probably for that. It's cheaper, more expensive. But I do hope that the coming academic year, and it will help me up, and I will be, like all set, all good. There won't be like any disturbances, hopefully, fingers crossed.
And how long has the electricity been a problem where you are?
I guess it's like the same as around Ukraine, like all over Ukraine. We have 4 hours, like we have electricity 4 hours off, like on and off. Sometimes it can be more. Last month, before, I would say before the mid of July, we had up to 6 hours without electricity. And in the heat, it's impossible. Like of course, when you have a working day ahead, you think, okay, when will you be able to have online lesson? Because mostly in summer you try to work online because the kids are off to different places, like summer camps, grandparents. So mostly it's online for me personally. And when you just like deprived of this need of just having this electricity, it's very hard. But I do not complain. I know that in some regions the situation is much worse, especially in the villages, because the cities, they try to give the like because everything, but the villages, it's much worse. It's very hard for the people just to meet the basic needs even.
I guess it's part of a very deliberate policy to try to make places unlivable and to break people's spirits and to kind of moralize people. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's in Kyiv, and she told me that she lives on the 21st floor of a block. And when the electricity goes, she basically has to walk up and down all the 21 flights of stairs. And he was saying in the heat, especially, like, you basically can't buy anything that you're going to keep overnight. Like, you put milk in the fridge and the electricity goes, and tomorrow you've got no milk. And, you know, so it kind of lots of little ways in which I think it obviously affects people's lives, particularly in the heat, which you don't think about if you're outside of that situation, you know?
True. And my husband, he is we are from Bila Tserkva, but he's in Kyiv, and he lives on the fifth floor. It's like rented apartment, like not a military, but so it's like not connected to the military, just like he rents on his own. And it's the choice, like some people do have electricity but don't have water, but in his case, when there is no electricity, there is no water. So he wakes up at 6 a.m. in the morning, there is no electricity, so he can't have breakfast, he can't wash face, brush teeth, impossible. So he goes to this military department where he serves, and he does all these morning procedures and starts his working day. The same in the evening. So you never know, like, whether it's worth going back to the flat or it's better to stay and just like to have one more hour at this military department.
So you're in a situation, I mean, I know a lot of Ukrainian women who've had to leave Ukraine with their children for various reasons, who have been separated from their husbands, but you're in a situation where you're separated even though you're both inside Ukraine at the moment, right?
Yes. If I may, I will, like go back because we were also separate. We moved abroad. So in the beginning, when the war hit us, I had an opportunity to go to Poland and stay with my students. So and 2.5 months. We were there, so up till the end of May, and then it was the choice. Like, you feel, like the part of you is missing. So yes, you're in a safe surrounding, you're staying with amazing people, you have everything what you need, but still you don't have this feeling of fullness of life. So we came back. I say we because like it's like my daughter, my sister, and I. We came back and right.
To interrupt. How old's your daughter?
She is now 8. Will be in 8. Back then she was 5.
Okay.
And it's the age when when the kids don't understand what's happening, and she couldn't comprehend what on earth, why we are going somewhere. So she knew the most important information, but it's just why were she going to the different like Polish kindergarten, because we found the kindergarten who accepted her, and then she got used to it, and it's this feeling like the you understand that it's not what you want for your child. Yes, you want her to be safe, but at the same time her roots, and it just went different with my vision. So it was this for the first time that we were separated for the like long period, and then we came. We lived here in Bila Tserkva. I guess my parents, they live in another region, and they live in a private house. So from time to time we were living Bila Tserkva. We were going there because it's much safer there. It's much more quiet, because different region, center of Ukraine.
Yeah.
And it's a private house, so you don't have to worry about the basement, cellar in case of alert. Because when we came from after Poland, we were like alert, like what to do, where to go, like this feeling. And the friends, they said like, There are some types of alerts that we do go in the basements, and some that we just skip. And it's
Yeah.
the third,
Yeah.
yes. So, and we're like, so that was the nervousness, the fear. But my daughter, she went to the first grade, and that's when the fear kicked in. Like not 100%, but full power, full motion, because the shelter, like imagine 6-year-old kid with a beautiful this like ribbons going to the 1st of September, the academic year beginning. You have these expectations, everything is going to be fine, and then the year starts and the alerts begin, and they go in this basement, and they're little kids, they don't understand what's happening, and it's just this heartbreaking feeling that you understand that your kid is deprived of this basic need, acquiring education, something that she must have. But I guess all of Ukrainians had this feeling that they wanted the kids to be educated, but the fear of them going in the basement, for me as the mom, it's the worst.
I guess it's another way. I think for me, one of the things it took me some time to understand is the many different layers in which the war was working. Because I think, when I was growing up, I kind of imagine a war is simply to do with seizing land and seizing territory. But actually, you realize there are all kinds of different levels aimed at demoralizing and destroying a country by targeting people in different ways. And I think, making cities unlivable is one, making people demoralized is one. And I think depriving, a generation of young Ukrainian kids of the opportunity to have a normal education is also another way in which I think it's a planned kind of intentional,
Yeah.
you know, thing that the Russians are doing to try to kind of break and destroy the country's will and morale in that way.
But yeah, so I get it. It's but at the same time, I'm very hopeful person, and at this moment I'm thinking like, but my kid is only 8, everything will be fine. She doesn't get the whole picture what's happening, and for her it's a different perspective. So their teacher is very kind, loving, so when they go there, they're holding hands, they're talking very quickly, super quickly, and they're, but it's just they don't understand what's happening. But for parents it's like the next level, like we think, we calculate, we worry, we rush to get them when we're allowed, because we're not always allowed to get our children from the shelters. It's when alert is more than like 1 hour that we are allowed to come and like pick the kids up. But mm, for them it's communicate, because they are playing some games in the basement. So I do hope that it's not affecting them. So the hope, the bright light is it's just, it doesn't let them to I'm not sure how to express it, to be like set of the wrong, like set of the right way of going and developing and living.
I guess it's also, you never know what people will make of all of this in the future. I mean, I know my dad lived in London during the war. My dad was born in 1930, and he eventually evacuated out in 1941 during the Blitz. But before then, he has all these stories of like sometimes sleeping in the underground, and he has these memories of people sleeping on the stairs of the underground. And I've seen all the photos and the pictures of those times. And my dad's memory of it is it was quite exciting, and it's like it, later in life, he kind of looked back on it as being just one of the interesting things that happened to him in his childhood. And you've got no way of knowing what people will make of things in the future and how people will process or remember that stuff.
Like stronger, like survived with, so
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, of course, there are so many moments that you start overthinking and worrying, but again, you believe that tomorrow will be the better day, the brighter day, and the story, it will get better, because it's very hard always to live and worry. It's just crucial, like destructive feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I know as a parent myself how much you worry, even if your kids are like half an hour late home from school, you know, and this is just living in London where your brain starts to kind of run, your imagination starts to run wild and you start imagining the worst. And then they turn up and you say, where were you? And they were like, ah, just chatting to the street. And it's like, oh, worrying about nothing. So I can't imagine how much extra stress and worry there must be if you know that your kids are in a basement there and
But
there's an
there are
air and
different basements all around Ukraine, and the it's just, maybe it depends also on the school. But when my daughter was in the first grade, their shelter basement was in the school building, like underneath the building. So they just like, and there. The second grade, they were moved to another basement because like bigger space, more kids. They are second graders. They're elder, and can you just imagine? It's just like a cellar. Uh, and on the territory of the hospital, so they have to walk like maybe 1 or 2 minutes, so it's a very quick walk, but it's the cellar. It's when you go down, and because it's a hospital, they put the beds in this place, and the kids, they are sitting on the beds like these little chicks, 3 4 kids on the bed, and they're crammed, and it's a very cramped space, like room. My Ulana is coughing, sorry. It's and they are sitting, it's a winter, yeah, so they are sitting in a hat and in their jackets, they're playing their phones, and this feeling, like your heart starts, like just like a stone, because it's the first time that I went there. The kids, these beds, the kids, the teachers, cramped, lack of oxygen. Of course, there is ventilation, so they did everything they could. But this harsh reality that hits you, and of course, when the alert hits, you don't want to wait. You ask the teacher, "Can I please come and like grab my child so she doesn't have to stay there for longer, like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, because it takes time to get to the place." Just because um, it's so not not for the not for the kid to stay and be, but they don't get, so they're fine. They don't understand because they haven't seen other shelters probably.
yeah, 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 yeah. And at the moment you're in Bila
Bila
Tserkva, yeah?
Tserkva, yes, it's a city like 80 kilometers from Kyiv, so very close to the capital.
And how has it been there? Is it? I'm guessing it's
Oh,
quieter than if you're in Kiev.
okay, so of course, when we talk about Kyiv, Bila Tserkva is a very quiet place, and when we talk about other, like we were, like we are, I can't say that we are under God's protection because we never know. It's a military city, so there were hits, direct hits in the beginning of war. So it was like full action going on in the beginning of war. But now it's like the wave. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's not. And for the past week, it's been very noisy because these shahets, I'm not sure how to say it in English. They've been flying, and several alerts throughout the night, mostly closer to the morning hours, and very noisy because the direct hits, and it's falling somewhere in the field. Like friends of mine were saying that they could hear, like the windows. So it's loud, but thank God, without damages of houses or like deaths. But still, some actions are happening.
But for the people who don't know, the Shaheeds are the Iranian-supplied drones that the Russians have been using. The Iranian government's gift to the Russian government. Yeah.
I'm not react in the situations because, like, come on. It's hard. Like I'm very emotional person, so I do hope I'm not gonna cry. Yeah. So yeah.
You remember the first time that you heard proper shelling as well? I mean, because again, for people who haven't heard explosions, and I mean, I've only heard explosions in London from a distance. So I can remember in 1991, there was an IRA attack on Canary Wharf out in the East End of London. And I was living in North London in Archway, about 7 miles away. And we heard the bomb there, 7 miles away. And I remember at that point just kind of thinking, Jesus, that didn't sound like thunder. What the hell was that? And later realizing it was a bomb out in the east of London. And I guess for people who have never heard explosions or experienced explosions, it must be very difficult to imagine what it feels like and what the process you go through inside is like. So if you don't mind, I mean, can you remember like the first few times you heard explosions?
Yes, to say that I was terrified, it's to say nothing, but it's the fear that your fingers and hands, they go numb. So your brain understands that you need to act, like you need to take your kid, you need to take some stuff, you need to do something, but this immobility and the brain is just like dysfunctioned, and lucky me, I live with my mom. She like she comes from this different region that I mentioned, just to take care of Uliana while I'm at work. So I'm not like with the kid all by myself, so like there are three of us while the husband is away. And it's just the support that we had. I guess it was last year there was a rough night that we were awakened by the explosions at the military department. It was like 5 kilometers from us. It was very loud. It was in the middle of the night. It was winter, so everything was closed. But you are sleeping, and in the sleep you hear that like boom, boom, and you wake up and you like what to do. Like, and in the house chat, you hear people like, "We're going to the basement. We're going. Like, basement is open. Come, come, come!" Like, because sometimes it's closed, and like so it's safe.
Chat group or a WhatsApp chat group or something.
Have the Viber group like of our building, and you feel like, and you think, okay, to go down there, the kid is sleeping, it's winter, like you have to put on something, or to go to the bathroom. Some people say that bathroom is safe, some people say that it's not safe, like better not to stay there. So we were in the corridor. Because though we had a mirror, like like sliding back in there, but we said, and it was no, it wasn't winter. I guess maybe it was so just a year ago, and probably also we just there were these occasions, when our city goes through this heartbreaking moments when people live in a normal life. Yes, there are alerts. Yes, there is this just different drones are shot off, but these massive waves of fear, they're like coming, and then the moment of peace, and then there's another wave and a moment of peace. And the fear was that these couple past days, when these shaheds they were flying around, that it was some kind of like checking, like what's new in a district, and the people say like, maybe it's time to think, like, why is there anything? But basically all the military departments, they have already been destroyed. So, and I don't know. So I don't want to bring this like negative thoughts, but yeah. So it's,
Do you hear the drones when they're near?
pardon.
Do you hear the drones
Oh
when they're near?
yes, because it's summer, the windows are open, and
Yeah.
it's the noise, and like a student of mine also was saying that this that they are flying very low. You can hear them quite well, and the sound is devastating because you don't know what to do. Like and it just like some people are fearless. They come out on the balcony, they take the phone, and they start recording. Like So I guess different people react differently.
I've seen the videos of like the old ladies throwing bottles of cucumbers at the drone,
Exactly.
and it's like, okay,
Lady, a medal to her. It's fantastic. Yeah. So, just she she knew exactly what to do, and I hope she hit it.
I remember Dad always saying that even when he was much older, he could still remember the noise of different kinds of missiles as they came down. So, you know, he could remember this kind of like, and he said like he knew those were the doodle bug bombs, or, you know, very quickly you kind of learn to recognize what things are from the
I'm
noises they make.
sure many Ukrainians do know that, and it's in one side it's good to know that you know how to react, what to do, how much time you have, but at the same time it's of like we are living in such age that you don't know what to expect, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So can we rewind a bit, Julia, if you don't mind, and just tell us a bit about like your family and where you grew up and how you got into English
All
and all
right.
that.
So I'm from 1989, and I was born in a small town called Korsun-Shevchenkivsky. But in my passport, I have Kyiv written, so I'm a cool girl. But it's not true. So I'm from a small town, and I come from very, like a common Ukrainian average family, and I guess I've started learning English since primary school, but it wasn't that popular and fashion to learn English back then. So it was gymnasium, so it was very good school. We learned English, but I'd say that I started learning it because I realized that I'm not very good at maths, but I was good at English, French. So if I wanted to survive in this life, I had to develop my linguistic side. And
Were you a Ukrainian
oh,
speaking family or a Russian speaking family?
it's a Ukrainian speaking family. And so because we grew up in the center of Ukraine, so
Yeah,
district, though the city Cherkasy, it's the Russian, it was, I guess right now people are switching into Ukrainian. It was Russian, but the smaller towns, they were always Ukrainian speaking. Though I had Russian at school. Uh,
yeah,
it was obligatory, but we never. I had I had terrible mistakes when I was Russian because we didn't practice it at home. Like we didn't watch Russian films because everything was in like Ukrainian. There were like 2 or 3 channels, the main channels, and thank God
yeah.
they Ukrainian. Um, yeah, so and at high school I realized that my lucky ticket into the world would be by like showing, like expressing myself through English, and English, it was it. So I had a tutor, we were working, she was the best. So I'm not sure, so she's on in she like she doesn't have Instagram, so she doesn't know, but we had like 3 hours or less, like one lesson 3 hours nonstop. Sometimes when we were preparing it was 4 or 5, sometimes I had 6 hours nonstop. And my friends now don't believe in students when they say like, Mrs. Julia, how come do you know English? I say, because I studied,
Yeah.
not like minutes.
Did the,
It was a long time process, and in my diploma it says that I'm an interpreter, but I didn't work much as an interpreter. It's because Google and like people started using mechanical translation. Of course, yeah. So sometimes during the negotiations, I tried myself, but again, you needed to be the best of the best, and I don't say that I didn't like it, but I started working after the second course, and I felt that I like it. I like working with the kids. I like to interact, and my teaching career started when I was 17. Um, like
um,
yeah, so it was of course, like small, like private lessons, but the experience and the most important, learning how to communicate. We had two Canadians there, so I heard, like live Canadian, and it was very interesting. Yes, university, it's also just when you start recalling, you don't know what exactly was the best part, your working experience as or just being a student and recalling the moments, everything like that.
Yeah. I think especially if you start very young at that age, you develop a kind of confidence as well, because the only way you get confident at anything is by doing it and putting the work in, and the more you do it, the more confident you get. Yeah.
Yes, I would. But again, yeah, maybe I liked it. I tried to do it. I tried to learn, but I was very shy. It was when I look back and I'm thinking about my past, I'm thinking like, how did I survive? Like, it, yeah, so very shy. I would say the more I exposed myself to the world, the better I've become, just in regular like communication. And the hardest part was to talk to parents, because when the parent asks you a question and you start from pale into red and then into green, and the thing was that Kyiv, Russian, like I would say 80% back then spoke Russian, and I spoke Ukrainian, and you you have this feeling that you're incompetent, because you can't express yourself normally. You're young, you're inexperienced. They speak Russian, and I was asked by my boss one moment to start speaking Russian. And of course, maybe I can't say that it was some subjects were taught in Russian, so I knew how to communicate. But if it's not my mother tongue, I had an accent, and it was this. You don't know how to say it. You feel that it's not yours. You are awkward. You are in your. These are not your shoes that you should walk. It was very hard, but luckily, I decided that if I'm not good at it, I'm terrible at it, and I just spoke as I spoke, so it was Ukrainian, and that's it. Mm.
It's interesting that in even like the capital city, Kiev, at that point, Russian was still very much seen as being the kind of expected language, or the language of education, or I guess it's a kind of it's a post-colonial hangover.
Yep. When I'm sure the people, maybe people would agree or people would disagree, but if in Kyiv you spoke Ukrainian, it means that you came from a village or from a small town. It's like 100%. Only, maybe the families authentic with the deep Ukrainian roots, they would speak, like beautiful Ukrainian language. But mostly you would hear Russian, and it would be like, okay, like, okay, I know where you come from. So that was the feeling.
Yeah, interesting. And you said then you were working in a university for quite a long time, yeah?
Yeah, I graduated with honors, my bachelor and my master's, and I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but I was offered a like 0.25, like not the full time, not the part time, but half of the part time, and
Okay.
yeah, so just to try, because I couldn't teach like third or fourth courses, so I was given the first and the second courses. In order for me to teach like third or fourth, I had to have a PhD, and I was told that you work 2 years, then you have an opportunity to get your spot, your chance, enter PhD. And it was like that. So I worked, yes, 2 years, maybe three, no, I guess 2 years. I was teaching regular English, like we had, I don't remember even the book, it was 10 years ago. But after that, I was offered an opportunity to go to this postgraduate system of education. I passed exams, everything was great. I was assigned a supervisor. I was given a topic. My master thesis was based with like American and British slang, and that's why my thesis was also connected with slang. And oh, what a bummer, because I've never, back then I have never been abroad. How could I investigate slang? True or authentic British slang from the books. So it was very hard to write the first chapter, like the theory, but I managed somehow. So I did that first part, but the practical part, it was hard. Why hard? Because when you work full time, and after this work you have some additional classes, because you need money, you need this, you need that. And I was living in Bila Tserkva and going to Kyiv, so it took me 2.5 hours to commute. And while I tried to do, so while going, I was checking essays, I was listening to audiobooks, I was reading. Then I realized that I started having problems with my vision, because the highway wasn't the best. It was, why so long? It was under reconstruction. And sometimes there were traffic jams. So now I recall and I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, whether I'm fearless or I'm stupid, I don't know. um, so but then somewhere in the middle of my PhD, I got pregnant, and I kept going to Kyiv. I wasn't teaching because I was supposed to write, like full time my PhD. But to be honest, I wasn't writing because I needed money. The salary of the university teacher was, I don't know, like maybe mine was that low, but for me it wasn't enough for this commuting experience, because I wasn't going by the city train or something. I was going by bus, and so to go faster, though it wasn't very fast. And after my first trimester of going here and there, and we were living, the best part, in a military dormitory, 8 square meters room. uh, like, so like my husband and I, we didn't need some luxury, but 8 square meters in a military hostel, not a hostel, like a dormitory, and on the outskirts of Bila Tserkva. So when you come at, for example, 8:45, and at 8:30 was the last bus to your district, and you missed it, you had to call the taxi or walk home. We didn't have the car, so it was always this rush to get to this like local bus in Bila Tserkva to go to the place where we were living, because we were living, as I said, in the suburbs.
That what inspired you to then sort of set up on your own and become self-employed?
Yeah, it was probably the beginning, because I quit PhD because I got into like a hospital, because my pregnancy was under the threat, and it was the first ring for me that you can't go to Kyiv any longer. So I started teaching Skype, and it was very interesting experience. So it was new, it was back 2016, and I like that. I realized that what on earth, why didn't I do it earlier? Because yes, it was awkward because I didn't have materials, but step by step I started. I was like learning how to do these presentations. In Skype you couldn't do that, but the kid had, I have the book, why not? We survived. My work, like when I started my like working on my own, was after I got to local university. So there is a local university, and when I got married, And when I moved to Bila Tserkva from Kyiv, I wanted to move from one university to the other, but they didn't have, like open vacancy for me. But I left my phone number, and when Uliana was 2 years old, the dean of this department, she called me and she said, like, hey, we've got these subjects like practical phonetics, like English, and I guess something with grammar, like practical grammar. Would you like to take this opportunity? And I'm like, can I come in a year, because I'm in a maternity leave, my kid is 2 years old, like, is it possible? And she said, like, no, if you want to start, you need to start now. I'm young, I'm 28, I think I can do whatever in this world. So I hired nanny. It was like for 2 or 3 hours, because like one double period or two. So and it, because I wanted it. It's like I've been waiting, and here I was given this opportunity. I've worked for 2.5 or 3 years, and then I have already had my private students from Bila Tserkva, and a colleague suggested, like, there is the cabinet, like, would you like be interested in renting it? And I'm like, okay. So here it started like back then. So I was working at university, and simultaneously I was also teaching, renting, and it evolved. I started growing, more students, more people found out about me. And at one moment I quit university, not because of teaching, but I was writing articles, IT articles for an American company, and good money. And when you work daytime at university, then teaching in the afternoon, and then at night writing these articles, you feel not exhausted. Like I had to make this choice, and I loved this communication with students. So I wanted to have like separate subjects for teaching with less hours, just to keep the job, but it was impossible. So you have to work full time. I couldn't do that. So I quit. It was the end of the contract. So basically, it's to prolong or not to prolong, and like that. So now I'm on my own. I'm an entrepreneur. Very difficult word to pronounce. It's
It's worse when people call themselves teach entrepreneur, teacher. There's that
oh,
word people
okay.
use,
Yeah.
thing, which I can't pronounce either. So don't worry. I know how it feels. Can I find a little bit? Can I go back to
Yeah.
2014 when Russia annexed Crimea and
Mhm.
Donbass started? What experience of that, or your memory of that, or your understanding of that at the time?
So maybe it's so shamelessly of me to say that, but it was far, and probably mostly people, they thought that it wouldn't concern them because it's far away. And here I was wrong, because in 2018, I would say it was the end of 2017, that my husband, he had to have several rounds. In the first round, he wasn't sent into eastern part of Ukraine, because his head officer, he knew that I was pregnant, and he didn't want to cause like negative emotions for me. So my husband stayed home. He wasn't sent back then. But when Uliana was 1.5, it was again his turn to go, and they had this 6 months like serving period. And
Yeah.
my birthday is on the 29th of December, and my husband left on the 28th of December. So it was my birthday present. I wasn't. It's his duty, so it's not like, oh, I wanted to celebrate my birth, but it's just the feeling that is carved on my heart that it also touched my family, because my kid hasn't seen her father for half a year. When
Yeah.
he came back, we didn't have the live communication, so we were just calling one another, texting, because he was living in this like places. Like barracks, not barracks.
Trenches?
Yes, trenches. Yeah, and the connection wasn't always good. And when he came back, what broke my heart was that Ulana, of course, he didn't recognize him, the voice yet, but when he wanted to pick her up, she didn't let him do that, because like it's like another man, so she didn't recognize, and it was very heartbreaking. And with the time, it was good, it was settled, but this first, like, you're waiting for the moment to the kid, to reunite with the father, but we didn't have, like face-to-face connection just to talk, so she wouldn't forget his face, and like this moment.
It, one of the things that I always find very, very moving is when I see photos of guys who've come back from the front meeting their kids again. And oh God, I mean, I know when I'm away from home for a week, just doing teacher stuff, I miss my kids a lot, and you miss their growing up. And I don't know, the feeling of that being taken from you is a very difficult feeling to process, I think.
Yeah, we didn't have this moment, like my husband and the child. So, but and maybe in the moments like that, in many different places where you go, you have this like a discount, like the people who served in this like war districts, they had like a 20% discount, 30% discount, and back then I never used it because I felt like ashamed, like why would I use it, but now I'm thinking like, my kid missed 6 months with her father, so I'm gonna use it. That's my lawful right, and I'm not gonna be ashamed of doing that.
So, given that your husband was serving out in east of Ukraine, what was there a point before 2022 where you started to feel that the war could come closer? Or did it remain something that you thought was frozen and kind of separated out in
um,
Donbass somewhere?
I didn't believe that the war would come closer. So there was this feeling of denial, like you didn't want to believe. And in January, in the beginning of February, on the television, we were told like everything will be fine. Don't worry. Like go out, have fun, celebrate. But the week before, my husband always had this night shift duty, so among military it's a common thing, and you don't pay attention, like okay, your husband is away at night, it's normal. But they started having the military like some education, and so they were staying at the this department for like several days in a row, and it didn't hit me back then, but now I do realize that I think they didn't know because they're like common military people, so they were told to do so. They were doing every year. There was something similar where they were preparing, where they were doing some drills. But some people told me like, "You're the wife of a military man. Why didn't you know that the war would come? Like, come on, seriously? Like, is my husband somewhere in the ministry sitting? Like, he's a regular military. Like, I was woken up in the morning of 24th, like everybody else. But so like that.
I'm going to ask you what your memories of the 24th were, and when you then decided that you were going to go to Poland.
So I that night I was also I was working really late at night, and I didn't fall asleep up until 3 a.m. in the morning. So all this action that was happening, the bombing of, we have our local airport here, like not for cargo airport. All the bombing action noises, they were heard, but at 5 a.m. in the morning, I was sleeping. I didn't hear that, and that I woke. And I was watching also military film ahead of that, so I don't know. It was some feeling, or don't know what was that. But my husband was calling several times. My mom was calling several times. Father-in-law was calling. My father. So everybody, they were calling me, and my phone. The kid is small, always off, like silent mode, vibration off. And when I picked up, and I'm like, goodness, like what's happening? And my husband said, Julia, the war has begun. Pick up stuff, pack your things. My father is coming to get you. And I'm like, what do you mean war has begun? Like, it's exactly like, and it was not even denial. It was this overwhelming, trembling fear that the world has crashed in 1 second. Like, you had plans, expectations. It was a very important day in our life because we were supposed to get family documents, and I say, like, but what are we gonna do? Like, he's like, I told you, like, pack your stuff, get Juliana ready, and father will be like in 1 hour. And it was like that. My mom and my father-in-law, they came, they picked us up, and I packed one bag. And my mom says, like, Yulia, are you serious? Like, I said, like, yeah. She said, like, take more stuff. We are coming for a long term. I say, like, mom, like, but no. I said, Yulia, it's not gonna end like for 3 or 5 days. She said, like, start packing. And I took like plenty, because I took, like, like clothes for 2 or 3 days for the kid to stay at grandma's place. And I'm talking and I have the goosebumps. When we moved, on our way, we picked a kid from that village, because my husband's parents, they live in a village in the same district as my parents. We picked a kid from Bila Tserkva to get him home to his parents in the village. And it was very rough time, because people were worried whether the Kyiv would not be captured by Russians. And you go to sleep, you sleep in the middle of the night, you check the news, you wake up. And I remember there was this crucial night when you wake up and my mama says, it's fine, don't worry, Kyiv is safe. uh, and I'm like, you feel scared, but at the same time you feel relieved that capital is standing, so we're living, it's gonna be fine. Like, there is hope, there is the life, because of the people were united. So the people there, it's strictly, yes, of course, military played a huge, but when like massive role, but it's also simple civilians, like that, even like the lady that you told, like with the jar.
Yeah.
So that's when you fall, it's hard to comprehend, but that's why we are in unity. We stand together.
Teacher friends of mine in Kyiv told me that they spent that night, like the 24th, 25th, just basically making Molotov cocktails. And like their whole blocks were basically just preparing Molotov cocktails in case they needed them, in case Russian tanks suddenly appeared. So I guess you had that kind of unity very, very quickly, and people sort of almost not waiting for instructions or not waiting for orders, and just deciding what they do themselves to kind of ready themselves.
Yeah, to protect, and just to be to stay safe, at the same time to protect the families, because it's also about to protect the ones that you love the most.
And so when did you then go to Poland?
Somewhere before the 8th of March, because on 5th of March, I called to my students, and without hesitation, mother of my students said, like, we're waiting for you, come, we have the place for you to stay. And I was, it's just, the people I was teaching these children back when I was living in Kyiv. So it wasn't like I was teaching at the moment. And they accepted us. We had, like the whole floor for ourselves. And the other family from Zhytomyr also was there, also their music teachers. So very, very loving. Thank them very much. I don't know if I am subscribed to her channel, but it was and it was interesting experience in terms of living in another nation culture. Husband is German, but at the same time I kept working. I was working online teaching with my Ukrainian students, and this like surreal feeling that you're in a different country, but you're doing what you're supposed to do. You keep living, doing, but something is missing. Like it's wrong. And I'm frequently asked, like, would I like to live abroad for some time, just for fun, but long term? No, I don't think so. I had an opportunity. I could find a job. I don't know. It's as long as I'm, married, I'm happily married woman. I even don't consider this things.
It's interesting hearing people like yourself talk about why people would decide to move back to a country that's at war, because I know for a lot of people outside of Ukraine, it's a kind of like, why would you go back somewhere where there's a kind of risk? But from what you're saying, it's almost like a no-brainer. It's like you feel that if you're not doing that, you're not a whole person, or you're missing part of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and my daughter was missing her father, so she couldn't understand like why we were there living with other people, and thought like why we couldn't go. Like that was heartbreaking. So for me, it wasn't the thing just to think to come back or not to come back. It was obvious.
During this time, was your husband serving again? Yeah, was he kind of
Oh
active
yeah,
service?
so he was serving in Bila Tserkva in the beginning of war, and it was very rough beginning. And he never tells me, and he never told me what exactly was going on and was happening. But it was very hard, and I would say maybe 1 year. 1 year he was moved to Kyiv.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And
Sorry.
sorry, no, it's okay. It's okay. My son's sleeping on the sofa in the other room, so I've got a similar problem at the moment.
I told
Um,
her like she's like something had happened under the sofa. Yeah. Mm.
and how has all of this affected your teaching? I mean, have you noticed your teaching changing, or your relationships with your students changing, or the things you talk about changing, or your lessons changing, or how for you?
So I would say that we keep working no matter what. In my building where I'm renting, I do not have the shelter, the basement. And when the alert is on, my parents know, so that they can stay home, keep working online, like it's fine. Or come. It's the feeling of safety. It's way too present. And at schools, no one is allowed to keep working. But I guess I violate the law. I don't know if authorities are listening or not listening. Uh, yeah, but how it affected, the kids have alert on, and when the alert starts, the feeling, but they're very, like uh, sensible people, grown people, like, oh, it's alert time. Okay, like they switch off and they keep working. So in terms of, I do not have kids who have moved from the eastern or southern parts of Ukraine, so I didn't encounter, like I didn't experience teaching them. So I can't say how the situation of Ukraine has affected their mental health. And so I'm just teaching the local kids. Sometimes when it was getting very loud, there was no connection, so it was like day off or like staying home, stay safe.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to ask you, but I was just also wondering, before February 24th, did you have any connections with anyone in Russia? Did you have any family or any friends or colleagues or anything?
Colleagues, no. Friends, no. Relatives, we had. We had. So my mom. Her mom died when she was 14. Or 16. So she died when she was very young age, and my mom was brought up by her aunt. And this aunt has got two sons. So one is living in Moscow, and the connection, like, is disconnected. It's heartbreaking to see that family, like a son and a mother, like it's like nothing. I'm not very close, and I wasn't very close, so I just know that they exist. But last time I've spoken with my cousin, probably when we were at school. So maybe because we not that much united even before the war. So no connections from that side. The same with the Crimea. So on my father's line, my father had two brothers. When the war I guess it was in 2014, or maybe even before 2014, one of the cousins, like distant cousins, moved to Kharkiv, other one left, and that's it. They're not communicating again. So families are being ruined, and the worst part, that those who are on the other side, they do not believe, or they reject to believe, they are blind to believe. So their truth, it's what matters.
I find it mind-boggling that people can not believe what's happening. I mean, the only way I can understand it is that really they understand what's happening, but it's just too painful or too difficult, or I
They're
don't know.
just brainwashed. That's it. My only explanation. So
Yeah, yeah. So can I start off with just a couple of questions about kind of the future, I guess. Yeah. When you were talking about in 2014 not thinking the war was going to come closer, I was thinking about a lot of people in Western Europe who obviously don't believe that the war will come to them in any capacity. I mean, I was talking to a French friend recently, and she was saying, like, why would Russia ever attack France? And I was like, do you not listen to Russian politicians? Do you not listen to what they say? It's like, this is what they dream about all the time, these guys. It's like, why would they not do it if they thought they could? And for me, for a long time, I've had a feeling that the only thing stopping the war expanding is the sacrifice and the bravery of the Ukrainian people, and that it could very easily come to the Baltics or Poland or Moldova, or and it can come to France and Germany and England in different ways, through attacks and through cyber hacks on railway systems and arson attacks on train systems, as we saw in France this week, this kind of thing. So I just wondered how you felt about people in the West who are pushing for some kind of diplomatic solution at the moment, or pushing for a ceasefire, or, who just want peace. I wondered how you feel about
that
all those people.
that's the worst, because this peace, that it won't last for a long time. It's just the moment to seize the power, to like accumulate more power and to hit with an even bigger blast when people won't be ready, when people would think, oh, the final peace has come. The peace would be only when we, when we reach it on our terms, not on the terms of other sides, but when Ukrainian nation has suffered already so much, and to give up at this point, it's I'm not sure what an English word I should pick here. So Ukrainians stand, protect, like basically, yeah, we are this thin line between the third world war, and if the world doesn't awaken, it's hard to predict what's going to happen. And unfortunately, people don't, yes, people want peace, but will it last? And what's gonna, like, this is the worst.
Yeah, I'm surprised after 2014 that anybody believes this is a possible idea. It's like, I thought that's what we tried in 2014 and we've seen the result of that. So when I hear people proposing this, I just think, like, you know,
mind-blowing. The other day on Instagram, I've seen someone was reposting a video that there was something similar back in 1996 in Russia with Chechnya. So there was also peace, like a treaty, and in 2 years, smashed, destroyed, crashed.
and they killed 1/3 of the Chechen population.
So no, we won't. It should be on the Ukrainian terms, not in the world terms. And the world should understand, and the people in Europe should understand this. So their safety, their peaceful sleeping nights on our, like alert nights, when the kids, awaken in the middle of the night, or when the kid, starts the school day with, when you go to school and you hear the siren on. Some kids are very, like peaceful, okay, siren, then it's siren. But some kids, they have fear and like trembling fears, fingers, whatever. Yes. And some kids have seen the war who have moved from war regions, and just it's hard, it's heartbreaking. Of course you want to live peacefully, but what would be the cost of that peace?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And just finally, I guess, I always feel this may seem like a stupid question, I don't know, but how are you feeling about the kind of weeks and months to come?
So I do hope that they are going to be quiet, and back at school I learned the moment when there are Olympics, all the war actions should be ceased, and because Olympiad is on. I guess it's not about our situation, but maybe somehow the days would become brighter, and it would be easier for people just to keep living, to develop families, to live happy lives, and to start rebuilding the country, because that's what we have to do right now. We have to be united, not think about differences, because we need to save the country.
Yeah. I guess, on that note, I should just sort of finish by mentioning, my own small kind of contribution to this. I'm going to be coming to Kyiv in November, early November, and doing a few days training with Ukrainian teachers and raising some money and donating, and, also hoping it's a bit quieter while I'm there. We've been looking for a venue that's basically kind of also a shelter, so hopefully that will all be okay. But very much looking forward to being back in Kyiv, even if, the journey there is going to be a bit more complicated than last time I was in Kyiv about 5 years ago, but I'm sure I'll manage. And so, yeah, I look forward to that. I'm just reading a quick question there. My Western friends tell me they're reluctant to help Ukraine because they fear what will happen when Russia will cease to exist as a whole. They fear that a worse dictator could appear. Jesus. I mean, they should fear about what happens if Ukraine ceases to exist as a whole. I would suggest should be a bigger fear.
Yeah.
I know what a worse dictator involves at the moment. I mean, it's well, how much worse does it get? Yeah, I think that's the great fear that Russia has put into people's minds of this kind of, you know, don't create escalation whilst they continue to escalate. Very clever psychology, I guess. And it obviously, I was chatting to a Ukrainian friend of mine the other day, and he was saying one thing he concludes is lots of people in the West weren't bullied at school because they've no idea of how to deal with bullies. And, you know, as someone who was bullied at school, I know the way you deal with bullies is in the end you hit them with a chair. And up with a chair, they leave you alone. We have a comment here saying why you support Ukraine. I cannot believe this is even a serious question. Because Ukraine is the one thing stopping Russia rolling across the rest of Europe. And in my life, I don't think I've ever seen such a clear-cut example of right and wrong. Thank you for your question. Give your head a wobble and sort yourself out. Okay, I'm going to leave you to your day, Julia, because I know that you've got your daughter in there who's, you know, obviously
she's extremely happy because 1 hour with Gak and whatever she wants. So she is extremely happy.
Okay, pleased to hear it. And look after yourself, and please pass on our thanks to your husband and, you know, his comrades in the kind of in the military, and take care of yourself. And Slava Ukraini.
I'm Slava. Thank you very much. I'll be looking forward to meeting you in November. So I had to fill the invitation and I'm waiting.
Given that this was your first ever live, Julia, I think it's safe to say you're a natural.
Oh gosh, thank you very much.
You take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.